So when I think about resentment, I think that it's a reaction to something that feels unjust, like it's an injury, or it's indifference. And there's these words, it's not fair, that I've heard so often with people who feel resentment. The thing of it is that resentment can often be motivating to action. So resentment isn't necessarily a negative thing. It can motivate you to take action in the name of justice. If there's no action to be taken, that's when it kind of takes hold of the body, mind. How I would work with resentment is different based on kind of where it's coming from. Like if I'm working with a client who is resentful of injustices from their history that are now over, that would be somewhat different from working with, say, an African American individual who's dealing with systemic oppression and the legacy of slavery in this country. I think those would be very different ways of working. I mean, many marginalized group members learn very early on that life is not fair for them. They see in their school, if they're in they might see that the members of the dominant culture get more privileges, they get more opportunity than they do, and they often learn this very young. I think it's very important as a white therapist to acknowledge that and acknowledge my own privilege and acknowledge the privilege oppression dynamics in that therapeutic dyad. Because without that, we can't really address those dynamics. And I know that many people that I've talked to who are white are still kind of rooted in that color blindness where I don't see color, we're all the same, and we can work because we're all connected and we're all the same. But that's not true. One of my colleagues sent me a quote that I liked very much, where it was from I think it was an African American woman said, if you don't seek my color, you don't see me, and you certainly don't see how I see you. So we need to acknowledge that difference. And then from there, I think it's complicated. I mean, we work a lot in sensory-motor psychotherapy with somatic resources to help people stay grounded and stay centered. And with marginalized people, I feel that somatic resources can be very beneficial to deal with the dysregulation that can come with the ongoing injustice. And it can't take away the injustice, but it can help arousal return quickly to a window of tolerance so that someone doesn't live in prolonged dysregulated states. And this is a very important element of working with marginalized people, I feel. And accepting the immensity of the issue and being able to acknowledge the hugeness of it, not just even in this lifetime, but with the transgeneral transmission and the historical imprint of historical trauma and community trauma and slavery, etc. I would acknowledge I have a lot of privilege. I'm white, I'm educated, I'm middle, upper socioeconomic status, I live in a great place, etc., etc. My only marginalized status is that I'm a woman. And I would acknowledge that. I would just say that. And I would say, these privilege oppression dynamics are all over in society, and they're going to show up in our relationship as well. When I've done that, like I'm thinking of one client called Jamie, call her Jamie. it came out in the very first session, and acknowledging that really helped her feel seen. It opened the door to us to continue to acknowledge those dynamics. It opened the door for us to be able to contextualize some of the issues that came up within a larger sociocultural context. And we talked about what it was like for her to work with a white woman. Yeah. So it's good to have it on the table. But I have a caution about that too, because, well, I have two cautions. One, if a white person hasn't done their homework and it's just words for them, that it could really do more harm than good to try to talk about it, because you need to know what white privilege is and study it and acknowledge all the benefits that we've gotten as white people just because we're white, not from our own merit. And the other caution is that if a client doesn't want to talk about it or isn't interested in it, you have to drop it. So tracking is critical here. There's probably a lot of detrimental effect from a white therapist trying to campaign for social justice when that is not the goal or the concern of a marginalized person who comes to see you for therapy.